Hi,
Hello.
everyone.
Hey,
Hi.
Katie.
Welcome, Katie.
thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You're our first official Books and Bindings guest.
Oh,
So exciting. We've been really excited to have you on here. In our last conversation on books and bindings, Jordan gave a wonderful hint as to who we'd be interviewing. And it was so wonderful and so good. Everyone guessed correctly. So
okay.
great. And Jordan, it really was such a good hint. So we are going to start off with a little introduction before we ask you some questions, Katie.
Okay, sounds good.
So, hi everyone. Today at Books and Bindings, we have a special guest with us. Her name is Caitlin Miller. And Katie is an English teacher in Japan to Japanese children. And she's a college student, a fellow believer in Christ, and a lover of good stories. Some fun facts about Katie are that she can type 130 words per minute, which blows my mind. She loves aesthetics and she enjoys making book reels, and she's really good at them too. Today, we are going to be talking about her debut, The Memories We Painted. It's a YA historical fiction novel that was released this past March. So, welcome, Katie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to get to know you a little bit more about you and about your book. So we're going to jump right in and ask you a few questions.
All right.
All right, first question. What was your inspiration for The Memories We Painted?
So there were two things that were the inspiration. First and foremost was my younger sister. Almost 4 years ago now, she started having a lot of health struggles and eventually led to a diagnosis of chronic pain. So it just opened up my eyes to a world that I was acquainted with. Like I knew suffering, but I didn't see it like up close and personal. So that was definitely the biggest inspiration, was my sister's whole journey. It's an ongoing journey because she does have chronic pain, so it's something she still deals with daily. And the second thing was a book I read a couple years ago. It was by Rosanna M. White. It was called An Hour Unspent. And the main character, I don't remember her name, but she was she previously had polio. And that was the first book I read that featured a character that had like a disability or major health struggle that still affected her. And I was like, wow, like, why aren't there more books like that? Like, I want to write one that features someone who struggles with health conditions. So those were definitely the main two things that inspired my book.
That's awesome. And actually, it's funny, I actually read that book. I believe I have it on my shelf. So it was a good story.
I loved it.
I'll have to read it. It sounds really good.
Rosanna M. White is a great author.
Mhm.
Very cool. Yeah, you mentioned that disability isn't something that's talked a lot about in books. And I think as Christians, the theology of disability is also something that isn't really talked about enough, even though most of us do know someone with a disability. So I love that you've written a book featuring not just someone with a disability, but a Christian with a disability. And I also loved that almost everyone treated Josie, your main character, with a lot of dignity and respect. So, what was it like navigating writing a main character who had a disability?
Yeah, so it was a little bit tricky for me because and I do have some health struggles. I deal a lot with fatigue, like chronic fatigue, but I don't know what it's like to be someone, who has gone through a lot of like really like traumatizing health things and like has a lot of struggles like that. I haven't been through that. So it was a little bit difficult navigating it, just like how do I put myself in their shoes and try to understand what it's like to be in a wheelchair or to have to go to the hospital a lot or have a lot of really scary things happen and watch your health deteriorate. But I think one thing that helped me navigate it was watching my sister through her health journey, like just seeing like her highs and lows and like what it looked like for her to walk through that, and just how it like affects your faith and like really opens up your eyes to suffering and like how do we find God in this and where is he when everything falls apart. So that's one thing that helped me navigate it. Let's see, I had another thought. I just lost it. Give me a second.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh yes. Okay. So I don't think anyone knows this, but in the first draft that I wrote of the Memories We Painted, when Josie and Will, the two main characters, meet for the first time at dinner, basically Will's character noticed that Josie like had an obvious disability. You know, she had crutches, and he kind of was like staring at her, not because he was judging her, but because he was surprised. And like I changed that the second draft because I felt like maybe that was um a bit of a cliche like thing to like, oh, I like he's just like staring, and she misinterpreted it and was like kind of miffed about it, you know, like, oh, he's judging me. How dare he, kind of thing. But like I wanted to like set an example for people, like when we see people who have disabilities and stuff, like yes, they're different, but that doesn't mean we have to see or view them differently. Because whether like we're in a wheelchair or you know we have mental health struggles or family struggles, relationship struggles, everyone is different. Like there's no thing that's a normal person. Everyone is different. No one is like it's you know normal. So I wanted to like set the example of like you know in Will's character, he struck up a conversation with Josie. He didn't like see her differently, and he saw her like for who she was, not like her you know disabilities. And I really wanted to set an example with that because it's so easy even for me to like sometimes you know almost view my sister differently because she has chronic health struggles. Like I don't want to do that because we're all different, and like we're all equal in God's eyes no matter what our disabilities are. So I really wanted to write a book that was like focus on what matters, their heart, and not like you know the outside stuff where you know we have broken bodies and stuff. So yeah, I think that answers your question, I hope.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love Will's character so much in the book. Like I thought you did a really good job with showing that, like his understanding for Josie. It was really sweet. So yeah, well done with that. So that also kind of leads into my next question of, is there any character in particular that you would relate to more than another one?
Yeah, I think the character I actually related to the most was Will. I think he was actually my favorite character to write. I just loved his character. He was so fun. But I think I related to him more because of his like, you know, friendship initially with Josie. It reminded me a lot of like my relationship with my sister, Grace. Like I have health struggles, you know, Will had, you know, arthritis. But it wasn't obviously as severe of a health struggle as Josie's was. And that's similar to me. My sister, we both have health struggles. Hers are definitely worse than mine. But even though like they weren't the same level, Will was able to relate to Josie because he understood what it was like to have a disability. And so they were really able to bond over that and connect. And even though it wasn't the same kind of illness, he was able to relate and say, like, I'm sorry, I understand what you're going through. Cause like, even though our struggles look different, I struggle too. So they had that in common. And that's definitely been the case with my sister. Like she has a lot of fatigue too and tires easily. And so do I. So it's kind of like, I get what you're talking about. Like I'm not in chronic pain, but I have like a lot of fatigue. So like I know what it's like to be tired, and I know it's draining and it's not fun and it stinks. But I get it. So like I think he was the person I connected the most to because of that. So
That's beautiful. Great. Okay. So we have a lot of other questions
Yeah.
too.
Where do we even continue? Well, backtracking a little bit, can we just talk about the aesthetics of your book? It is absolutely beautiful. This was what initially drew me to the book. I mean, the synopsis is awesome, but the cover is one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen. What was the process like in creating it?
Yeah, so I happened to just read a book and I really liked the cover, and I was like, I wonder who did it. And I saw the cover designer's name was Hannah Linder, and I was like, I should check out her website because I was at the process of like, who can I contact to find a book cover where it's not crazy expensive? Because like I don't have a lot of money, so I wanted to keep my budget low. And I checked out her stuff, and she just seemed like really like talented, and like she's very affordable. I was really surprised. So I filled out a whole form and contacted her, and she said like, are there any covers that you would kind of want me to mimic a little bit, like the style or the aesthetic? And so I told her that I really liked The Winter Rose by Melanie Dobson. The cover was so beautiful. I read the book too, and it's beautiful. And so I sent her the picture, and so she was like, okay, I'm going to base kind of like the color scheme off of it a little bit. I was like, great. And she's literally like the whole design was like her first attempt. I only had her change one thing. It was just the font for the word the. Everything else, I was like, oh my goodness, it's like I could never like do this myself, but it's everything I wanted it to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just fell in love with it. So I'm so happy that it turned out.
It's the perfect mix of dreamy and beautiful and hopeful and
Yeah.
mysterious. And I feel like that those are all words that kind of encapsulate what the memories we painted is.
Yeah, she nailed it. So
Yeah. Home run.
Yeah, I can't stop staring at it. Like, and like it feels so nice too. Like it's like, yeah, it's like such a
want to knock off.
when I first got my book, I literally was just like staring at it. I was like, is this weird? Because like I keep just picking it up and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love it. I looked at it so many times.
It must be so crazy. I've never published a book. You two have published a few books between the two of you. And that must just be the craziest feeling to hold your first book in your hands. Because this is your first book, right, Katie?
Yeah, it's my first book. So I was like, oh my goodness, like it was so surreal. And I put it on my shelf and I was like, oh, what? This is my book on my shelf. Like it was just kind of mind blowing. It was so weird, but it was a really like awesome kind of weird. So
So cool.
That's so great. So, well, I feel like every writer has a dream to see their book on the shelf one day, and every journey, sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, depending upon, the rate of which someone writes and gets the whole publishing thing underway. So how long had you been working on The Memories We Painted prior to publishing?
So it actually took me a while. From basically the first day I started like writing the first draft until I published it. It was actually almost 2 years. It took me a while because it was my first book, and I started it in April of 2020, and then like I wrote it for about 6 months, and like at that time I was actually like really slow at writing, so like it took me forever, and I wasn't even done with the first draft 6 months later. And then I took a break for 6 months because around that time my sister's health was really bad and she had to have surgery done and stay in the hospital for like 10 days. So I knew I just needed to take a break and really like be there for my family and focus on helping however I could. And I was just really emotionally drained from that. And I was like, I don't have the energy to write right now. And that's okay. So I put it aside for 6 months. And then like after that, I was like, I feel like I should start this up again. So I wrote it. I started it like, when was that? I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, 6 months after that time. I can't do the math. But so I started, worked on it pretty consistently. And then like I got it to the point like, okay, I finished first draft, second draft, read it 1,000 times and sent it to an editor, did the edits, all that stuff. So it took a while and I was learning the ropes of publishing. I didn't know like who to contact, what resources. Alyssa helped me so much with that. And she called me and really helped me figure out like how to navigate self-publishing. So thank you, Alyssa. But yeah, basically it took me a year and a half or almost 2 years. So it took a while, but I did it. So
That's great. Sorry, Jordan, what?
That's okay. Some of my favorite parts in the book were the flashbacks where we see young Josie coming to terms with her illness, her disability. Those were both heartbreaking. And every time I went back to a flashback, I was so excited because those are my favorite parts, but also it was like, oh my goodness, I can feel her pain. But yeah, what were your favorite parts to write? And looking back on the book now that it's finished, what are your favorite parts to read as a whole?
Let's see. I think definitely like some of my favorite parts to write were like Josie and Will's scenes together, especially like the Ferris wheel scene. That one was my favorite to write. I was like, oh, I got all the feels while writing it. And I loved also writing the flashbacks so people could just understand the backstory of Josie's character, like everything that she went through and how it like molded her into the person she was today and gave her dream for painting and helping others. But like I think one of my favorite, I have two favorite scenes to read. One of them is the letter that Sophie wrote to Joe. That was one of like I spent a lot of time writing that because I really wanted to nail it because it was such a pivotal scene in the book. And looking back on it now and reading it, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel like I did that justice. So I was really happy when I reread that. And let's see, one of my other favorite scenes to read was when Josie went into Sophie's room, and just that realization she had when all that time she'd wondered where God was and suffering, and she realized, oh, he's been here all along. That was one of my favorite scenes to write, because that's just something that was personal to me, because, years of watching my sister suffer and going to the hospital. We had to call the ambulance a few times. She had to have really painful and traumatic procedures done to try to help her. And it was just like, where's God in all this? Because it just seems like he's not here, and I don't know where to begin to find him. And just like, it took me a couple of years, and I just remember having this moment, and I was like, oh, he's been here all along, even when I couldn't feel him. He's been here. So I really wanted Josie's character to also experience that and to realize that for herself. So I think that was one of my favorite scenes to write and to reread as well.
Those are beautiful, beautiful scenes. I think my favorite at the end. I love the parts where there's letters. Anytime there's letters, the letters are just beautiful. I don't want to say anything to spoil anything, but you do a really good job writing letters.
Yeah, I love writing letters, so it was so fun to write those scenes.
Yeah, those are beautiful. Okay, so we've talked about characters, we talked about faith element. I do want to ask you this question, though I think I might already know the answer. But whose writing do you admire, and whose writing influences your writing, and who do you admire? And
You know the answer. It's Amanda Dykes. I knew you knew that. Yeah, so like when I read her first book, Whose Waves These Are, I just remember walking away feeling so inspired and like, wow, I want to write something like that that's so impactful. Her plots aren't like super crazy, but they're just it's simple writing, but it's so heartfelt, and like you just can't help but be like connected to the characters. Like, I'm not an emotional reader. I don't think I've ever cried when reading a book. I just like, I don't cry when I read books. Like I feel deeply, but I'm just like not to the point of tears. But her book, Whose Waves These Are, like I got so close to tears, like literally I was like clearing my throat. I'm like, I'm not crying, but I'm so close. But I just remember like feeling so inspired, like I want to write something that's beautiful, that's impactful. And like when I read a book, I want to be able to go, oh, that's the message the author wanted me to walk away with. And I did. And I got that from all her books. I've read all of them multiple times. I love them. And so like that was something that inspired me to do the same. I want readers to walk away with something and go, that's what she was trying to show me in the book. And I saw it. So yeah, Amanda Dykes all the way was my biggest inspiration.
I have never read anything by her, but seeing you both love her, I guess I have to now.
Jordan, I think you'll love her writing. Like it's so, I can't even describe it. It's like magical, but it's not, it's like based in reality. It's historical fiction, but she just has a magical way of writing. I can't really explain it.
Is she the one who wrote what is it called? I think you recommended one of the books to me.
Probably Set the Stars Alight.
Yes, that's on my wish list.
So good.
So good. It's so good. And Katie, I totally can see like the impact of her writing in your writing, like just the introspective thought processes and the deep themes and the moving pieces. So it's really, really sweet. So you nailed it. Well done with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
What has the response been to the Memories We Painted? It's been out has it been a month?
Yeah, it's been like a month and a half. I published March 8th. So
time flying. What has the response been?
It's been pretty good. Like I've gotten a lot of like positive feedback. Some people had some things that they wish were done a little bit differently. And that's the feedback you're going to get with every book that you write, which is totally okay. I really appreciate people's opinions and like, constructive criticism that they have, so I can implement that in future books. But overall, like I've just been really blown away about how the story has impacted people. I've even like had some really good conversations with people who themselves are in wheelchair since they were little, and they are handicapped. And one person told me like, I was so excited to read a book that finally featured someone who knows what it's like to be in a wheelchair, because I am, and it was so like moving and touching for me to like go, I can relate to this person like so deeply. So that was really neat. And just other people who have lost loved ones to diseases or even like cancer and stuff. Just like I didn't know these things about these people. Like I've talked to them a little bit, but like when they opened up and said, like, I read your book, and like it just met me on this level because I went through this. And I was like, wow, like I'm so thankful that I wrote this book, because as I said, I don't know what it's like to be in a wheelchair, but like, I guess I really tried to put myself in like their shoes, and I guess I did a good job of that. So I was really thankful that like I was able to pull it off, and just be able to connect with people. It's been so neat just seeing how God's used this story to bring others hope and just to meet them where they are. Cause that's been like my biggest prayer through writing the Memories We Painted, was that like it would really touch others, and especially those who have like handicaps or health struggles or lost loved ones to sicknesses and stuff. So it's been really encouraging. So it's been like so exciting for me, because like I'm like, oh, this is my first book. I'm so nervous because like I don't know if people are gonna like it, but it's been so encouraging to see that people have been like liking it and just been touched from the story. So yeah, it's been really great.
That's amazing. And I can definitely see the heart that you put into the book and the intentionality and trying to give each of your characters dignity and respect that they deserve. So I love that that's been the response.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been really fun also tracking the reviews, just seeing the reviews filtering in, and it's just like a little like, woo, I'm so happy, so proud of you. And it's only gonna increase and get, more as people come to find out more about your book, and as word gets out, we'll just keep spreading. And the more you write, the more you publish, people will find your older works and they'll, be interested in that as well, which is so exciting. So actually, on that same vein, what are you currently working on now that Memories We Painted is done?
Yeah, so like no one really knows this except for a handful of people and Alyssa as well. But while I was in between the publishing stage for the Memories We Painted, like there were like a couple weeks at a time where I didn't have anything to do, because like I sent my book to like my editor and I had a couple weeks, or my cover designer, and I had like about 3 weeks, and I was like, I had an idea for like my next book I wanted to write, and I missed writing because I'd been editing for so long. I was itching to just write something new, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like start writing a little bit in between, like this break, and we'll talk about it. And like within 2 months, I wrote a 92,000 word draft. And I've never written so fast in my life. I was like, what is going on? I was just like exploding with inspiration. So I was like, write it down while you have the inspiration, because it doesn't always, come around when you need it to. So I'm writing another book. I finished first draft. I'm editing the second draft, and then I'm going to send it out to some beta readers, one of which is Alyssa, hopefully in a couple weeks. I can't give away too much about it right now, but I will say it's a historical fiction. It's based on World War II, and it's epistolary fiction. So it's all letters, telegrams, journal entries, and because I discovered I have a love for writing letters and stuff when I was writing the letters in the Memories We Painted, and I was like, I want to write a whole book like that. So let's go for it, and I did it. So
Amazing.
I'm so excited. I mean, I haven't really read any of it yet, except like one page that was like randomly picked in the story that I have no idea what the context or but it was captivating and I eagerly want more. So that is wonderful news as well, especially riding on the success of the Memories We Painted. It's like the coattails of your story, and here's another one coming out probably maybe this year, who knows, maybe early next year.
Hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have another book out. So I'm working on it.
Crazy.
Well,
Wow.
Katie, it has been such a pleasure meeting you. This is the first time you and I are meeting. And thank you for telling us all about the Memories We Painted. Is there anything else that you want to share about your debut novel?
Let's see. I guess I would just encourage those who are watching the video, if you have someone you know that has health struggles or even mental health struggles or has lost loved ones to sicknesses or diseases, I really encourage you to maybe buy them a copy and give it to them. Someone I know did that. They bought a copy and gave it to their aunt who had lost their best friend from a disease, and she suffered for a long time. So she was like, I'm going to give it to my aunt, and I think it'll really help her and she'll be able to like connect with the story. So if you want to support me and you want to, buy a copy for someone that you know, I would be thrilled if you did that. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah. And we'll be sure to link your book in the description for the video as well. Yeah. So, and yeah, we can't really say anything more except this is a great book, and go buy a copy, everyone. Like, it's wonderful. Yeah. Kate, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
you're the first guest we've had, which is
So honored.
amazing.
So honored.
Oh, well, great. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, this chat, interview, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.